Thanks for watching Layman Racing Podcast. Please make sure you check out my recent episodes. They're pretty cool. Thank you for watching and thank you for the support and enjoy the episode. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Layman Racing Podcast. Your host, Dalton McVeigh. So we had to come on a little bit early. Our guest is a firefighter from Madison. There might be a call, so we had to bring him on a little early. So then in case he hopped off, it wouldn't be a big of a deal. But anyways, so also the co-host wasn't able to make it on tonight. So we are just doing a solo once again. But thank you for all the likes, comments, subscribers, and all that stuff. For here lately and the continued support. And we will get right to our guest here tonight. He is a firefighter on Addison Fire, and he is a racer at Oakshade Raceway. Please welcome Chris to the stage. How you doing, Chris?
Good. How are you, Dalton?
Good. So, quite busy night, huh?
Yeah, so far.
So, I guess we'll go ahead and kick things off. Tell the viewers more about you and where you're from.
I was born and raised Toledo, moved to Michigan the first time back about 5 or 6 years ago, joined the fire department, got involved in that. Moved back to Toledo for kids and stuff, and then eventually moved back into Addison and been here since. Was born and raised out at Oakshade, pretty much watched every weekend.
So, what was like the early inspiration getting yourself into the racing, like in your early years, as a kid? What was your interest in getting where you are today, and especially getting into racing?
A lot of it just came from my family being out at Butler a lot. That's kind of where I started, was Butler, and then we ventured down to Oakshade later on and stuck it there.
Awesome. So I know you mentioned your family. Was there a legacy into that? Did your dad race, or
nobody in my family really raced. It was more just me watching, and then one year I said that's what I want to do, and Grandpa helped me get it all started, and we kicked it off.
Awesome. So what tracks have you been to, and what was your favorite one, and why?
We've raced pretty much all of Oakshade. We've ran Butler a couple times, and then the end of the year, we always make the trip up to the Michigan Cup at Springport. Pretty much, I got to stick with the home track. That's all I've known since I've started. Butler kind of tore the car apart when we took it up there and ran, so we really haven't been back. And then when they added the 4-cylinder rear wheel drive with the front wheel drive, it kind of didn't have enough horsepower and stuff to compete anymore.
I feel that. I mean, I kind of feel about the home track because, the home track, in a sense, it's all I've ever known. So, being able to just stick with that track, that's something that, we all just know off heart, off the back of our heads, how that track's going to be compared to when you go to Butler. It's different every week.
Right.
But so what was your, did you have any craziest moments since you started that's kind of stuck out thus far in the racing career that you've been last few years of racing?
I mean, not besides the couple wins I've had, but other than that, really nothing stuck out.
So, how many years have you been racing?
This will be the 4th year this year.
4th year. Awesome. Was there you did mention a couple wins. Now I take it those were your proudest moments thus far?
Yeah, pretty much. The biggest, or I should say the proudest moment probably was going to run Springport the first time. Didn't know quite what to expect. We've never ran on asphalt. Kind of went out there and placed the C main, so that was higher than what we expected.
So what was your biggest challenges so far, and how'd you overcome it?
Biggest challenge so far would have to have been last year. Grandpa had open heart surgery, so he was out for at least a few months. I really didn't have any help or anybody to work on the car with me, so I kind of had to figure it out on my own and make it till I broke it, basically. Other than that, it was just showing up at the track and just having everybody else there helping out. asking for help. Everybody was willing to help.
Oh yeah, yeah. And like especially Oakshade, I've learned throughout the years since me being racing, it's like like Oakshade, it's like a big old family down there in the pits. Honestly, everyone comes up and helps you when you need it, and it's cool. But then you get some that just that have their own stuff to work on, which I completely understand that. But it's always nice to have the help, though. It's pretty cool. It's like a big old family down there.
Right.
So I got to ask this to pass through time. It's just a fun little question. But what do you prefer, asphalt or dirt, and why?
We prefer dirt. We just know how to handle the car on dirt and how to set it up. The asphalt's just kind of very different and a different beast in a sense.
Right.
Everything's got to be set up different, and you've got to have different equipment and everything.
Oh yeah, I've been trying to run out to that asphalt maybe a couple times, and it's hard because like the times I do have asphalt racing, it's like I got to work and I can't make it. But I do want to make it out to the Michigan Cup. I heard that was a pretty fun one out there.
Oh yeah, it's just like Oakshade. I mean, everybody's family out there. Nobody sets them or puts them higher than anybody else.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, how important are fan interactions to you?
Well, what fans we do have, I mean, they all pretty much are just strictly family right now. They help out and sponsor us and support us the best they can. We're just looking to grow our fan base this year.
Awesome. So, what was your biggest motivation, like on a weekly basis throughout the racing season? Like what motivates you throughout the week and gets you out there weekly?
It would have to be Grandpa. He puts a lot of time and stuff into the car. He does all the mechanical work on it, and basically anytime something breaks, he's fixing it. I just go out there and try to do my best for him.
Awesome. So, how do you handle pressure on race days? Like, how do you get yourself mentally prepared and physically prepared once you go out there before you get in a race car on the nights of the race?
Pretty much physically being prepared. That just comes from the job, basically. I mean, being a fireman, you always got to be physically fit. Mentally, it's just talking over the car with Grandpa on our 45-minute drive to the track.
Awesome. And I know you just mentioned that you were, well, obviously I mentioned at the beginning that you were on Addison Fire. How long have you been on Addison Fire?
I've been on Addison now 6 years.
6 years? Awesome.
Yep.
What was your biggest motivation and like what was your early interest in getting into the fire department?
That runs deep in the family. Uncle and cousin are both, or my uncle was previously a firefighter before he moved out of state. Cousin is currently a firefighter for North Adams, and then my great-great-grandfather was the chief of North Adams for a while.
Awesome. Yeah, because I know a lot of fellows from North Adams. I would say for me, it's my dad. He's been on Hillsville Township Fire, and along with, his brother Terry, they've been on, and my dad's been on for 24 years. So kind of just growing up through that, it's kind of gives you interest into that. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what was your most valuable lesson you've learned throughout your racing career, and even being a firefighter? What was just, I guess, in a sense?
Biggest lesson racing was last year. I kind of took an inside pass too low and caught a tractor tire. I now know what not to do. In a sense, the biggest thing for the fire department is it's all a brotherhood. So everybody's going to make mistakes. I know my first mistake I made, I was very worried what was going to happen, and it was totally different when it did happen. I didn't really expect what came of that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would say it's I've been having the biggest challenge myself, especially passing that stage test. I come down to like one or two questions, a little short, passing it.
Yeah.
So what was your first experience like when you first got into racing? Like, what was your first day out there? How was that like?
Waiting in the staging area, I was probably shaking at the knees in the car. I was nervous as all get out. I won't lie. But a lot of it just came with Grandpa standing right there talking to me in my ear, pushing me along. Basically, the 2 words he told me when I was before I went out was "give him hell." I mean, that's all you can do.
Hey, that's what, like, for me, I mean, when I'm in lineup, even though I'm nervous as crap, I bow my head down and I pray. I always do that.
Yeah, Grandpa does that too before we even climb into the car. We stand around the car and we pray before we even get in the car.
I say, yeah, with the KNC Racing Crew, we like to do that a lot too. Which, hey, I still pray when I'm in the lineup too. Make sure I'm covered.
Right? Yeah.
What does your future look like in the racing community?
We're just trying to get a grip on the front wheel drive. Once we do that, Grandpa's gonna actually build me a bomber, and then he's gonna do everything to it. And I eventually would like to move up and get into a late model. That's my goal for myself.
I would say though that late model would be really cool to try. I mean, for me, I would try to get into like even driving like one of them Dominator Super Stocks or something in the future. But we'll get there someday, hopefully.
Right.
So so I know you mentioned your grandpa was just a big part of it, but was that one of your biggest mentors that you looked up to going into racing, or was there someone else that kind of just you looked up to get to where you're at today?
Being raised out at Oakshade, or not really at Oakshade, but once we set our feet into Oakshade, I kind of followed and was a big fan of Steve Miller. I've got several pictures of his car, and I still look up to him to the day.
Awesome. Was there any sponsorships that you wanted to thank throughout the years, or even going into this year as well?
The biggest one is Grandpa and the Dewey family. They've put timeless money and time into it. The cousin Bailey, he lets me use his barn to keep the car in. We make a mess out there, and he doesn't even say hardly anything at all and helps out the most he can. This year it's going to be all new sponsors. We lost quite a bit of them from last year. Other than that, it's Freeze Frame. I mean, I've known them for years, and the opportunity came for him to put a sticker on my car, and we agreed, and he's stuck beside us from day one.
Awesome. So here's I guess one last question here. So as far as like a beginner racer that's just beginning, or someone that's just starting out their career, what would be the best advice from you to them on like just starting in the racing? What advice would you give to them?
My best advice would just be to get with somebody that's been doing it for a little while and start learning what they do and how they do it. Ask questions. Just can't be afraid to ask questions. That was one thing I did struggle with. Just starting out, I didn't want to ask questions, didn't want to ask the neighbor on how to do things.
I could tell you, when I first started out, I tried, obviously, Nate Goodman was one of the biggest guys that got me in there, and he was one of the people that I've looked up to, and along with my cousin at the time. But anyways, so like basically, I didn't want to bombard his phone with questions, you know what I mean? So it was like, man, what, if I don't understand this, so I would try to, I'll reach out and I ask questions when I could, but as far along as, we are today down the road, and in 2 or 3 years later, it's like, now since I've asked questions, I've also learned a lot.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Goodman Performance built all of our cars so far. And I feel like running to him all the time with questions, it's like he's probably saying, leave me alone. But, I mean, we're just starting out and we're still learning the cars. So,
Oh, yeah. Hey, you learn every day.
right.
Sure. So what, I guess that was the last question there, but what was, I guess in a sense, like, was there any you had for me as far as I had to ask, just I don't know, be curious?
Not really. I mean, I've been watching your episodes, following you along. I try to get more supporters to support you guys.
Hey, I appreciate it. We try our best, and it's very appreciative with all the subscribers and supporters. It's really cool. So,
right.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you being on, and hey, be safe out there and have a good night.
Yeah, you too, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. ladies and gentlemen, that was Chris Rutan on the podcast show. Got to learn a little bit more about his story, which is pretty cool. So we are talking off a microphone right here. So if there was a little bit more better sound, that's because of that. So we ended up getting a little bit more set up here, doing a live interview here, and within a couple of weeks, April 5th, we're going to do it with the Bail Money Motorsports from Butler Motor Speedway. They with Jason Wirt and Andrew Hollister. Trying to think who else. Kelsey Stevens. And Austin Sloan. Hunter Sloan. And hold on one second. I'll pull it up here. I just don't have it all up here. It's just can't run it off the top of my head. Bear with me, guys. But yeah, April 5th, we got a live interview there. Next Saturday, we got Scott Barnhart. He is going to be live next Saturday, the 22nd at 7 p.m. We had to start a little bit earlier than normal tonight because of Mr. Chris Rutan is on, as he was saying, he was on the fire department for Addison, and Hunter Jewett, by the way, my bad, not Sloan. But no, so he was on the fire department, so we thought we'd start a little early. They have a big fire over in Linaway, so they wanted to make sure that he was set, so he didn't have to skip out early. So yeah, Jason Lee, Andrew Hollister, Austin Sloan, Hunter Jewett, Jason Denbrock, Kelly and Drain, and Kenzie Stevens. So that's April 5th at 7 p.m. So, and then the 29th, where's it, the 29th? Hold on. Yep, 29th at 7 p.m. We got Brandon Paskin coming up as well. And then once it gets to the end of this month, I'll start scheduling more and more people to come on for, start scheduling more and more fellows to come on for the podcasts, because right now I'm just trying to see what my April's looks like, because the big reason why I'm also doing that is because I got into corrections as an officer, so I'm getting into being a corrections officer. I getting a call here within a few days for data hire, which I didn't want to really pull that out just yet. But might as well, since we're pretty much waiting on the call. So as a corrections officers, but April 28th is when I go off to academy. So it's going to be on the weekends when I can do it, plus racing being around the corner on April 26th. So we are switching it to April 27th. Not April 27th. 27th. So it'll be Sunday or a Wednesday throughout the week. But with Academy coming up, it'll probably only be a Sunday. So I'll probably be only doing it once a week. So it's going to be that. But it's also good to space it along, because if I don't space it along, we might run out of people, run out of episodes, and then it'll just be like that. So if we space it along, they'll last longer in a sense. So I do get a lot of people scheduled. There's a couple that we have to reschedule at a later date, but like Jerry Slade will be scheduled at a later date. Still waiting on his response as far as how he's doing. John Ruby Jr., still waiting on him to reschedule, and then Dylan Henry as well. But yeah, so those are the three that we are waiting for them to reschedule. If they reschedule, if not, that's okay. But after Scott Barnhart and after the live interview there from the Bail Money Motorsports racing place, we got Steve Campbell from Campbell Racing Technology and Dave Francor out of Adrian, and he races go-karts. And then Steve Campbell, he has a racing technology shop down south somewhere. Rather, be pretty cool to bring him on. Then we got looks like 24 Corey Bevard, he's coming on, and then 25 Dale Cole from DCR Graphics, 26 Ohio Sport Splits Ron Burt, so we'll be bringing him on. And then 27 is Gage Rushlow, 28th is Jeff Wells Jr., 29 is Mr. John Young, the announcer from Oakshade Raceway, plus he races the 15Y Street Stock as well, Dominator Super Stocks, whatever you may call them, by the way. But Marcus Davis in the 30, and then 31 Chris Jones, so which is a late model driver down south as well. But yeah, so in a sense, we've got quite a bit of lineup. There's more on top of that. I just don't want to name too much off because there's a whole list. I mean, there's a lot on that list. So, but yeah, and then July, I know we were trying to pull some segments for July. Thought it'd be pretty cool to do. So in July, June-ish, we got the Demo Derby segment. So I'm bringing on a bunch of guys that run derby cars from Enduros around. That's still in the works on who's all in that list. We got 4 on the list right now for it, but I will announce the names when it gets sooner. So then we make sure they are going to be on before I announce them. Go-kart segment in July. So we got kids that race go-karts all over the world, or dirt racing go-karts, Prattville Speedway. I know there's one from Prattville. There's one from Palmyra, but he travels a lot of places. There's one from down south. There's a few from down south. And then we got we got a Hall of Famer segment as well, which we got one guy on there as well right now, but we're going to grow that list a little bit. Just the Hall of Famers from the past. Going to come on and talk about their stories as well. So I know we had Jim Slade come on episode 9, but yeah, so it'd be pretty cool to hear some more stories from the Hall of Famers themselves, especially from Michigan, Ohio, and I have friends all over the world. So North Carolina, New York, up North Michigan, up down south, North Carolina, Alabama, Florida, New York. A lot of people around New York, Rhode Island, out that way. It's pretty cool. Washington, D.C. I think there's some from Washington, but pretty cool to hear. So we'll have to talk to some of them and see if we can't get them to come on for that as well. But like I said, I appreciate all the support, and thanks for tuning in a little bit earlier than normal. But hey, we got it out of the way, and had a good little interview with Mr. Chris Rutan. And then this Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, make sure you're here to 22nd. Scott Barnhart will be on 7 p.m. Eastern Time live here on YouTube. And so be sure not to miss out. Also, Twitch. I also got it on Twitch as well. I mean, I know a lot of people don't have Twitch, but it's under D McVeigh 2.3. So that's live off of that as well. I stopped going live on Facebook, guys, because Facebook kept saying it's been deleted, even though it's not. The live stream off of that, so I couldn't go live on Facebook, and it's been giving me issues here lately. So I just decided to delete Facebook out of the whole equation on the destinations part on here. So it will not be live no more on Facebook. Looks like if you don't got Twitch, it's only gonna be on YouTube. I figured that would be the best bet because you could be public. It's set on public on that one, not private like Facebook. So it'll be able for anybody can join. So, but yeah. So, like I said, the co-host was unfortunately not able to make it tonight, but we did have a good podcast, I thought. So, like I said, feel free to share your comments, your concerns, questions. Even your feedback, we're always love to hear it. Always like hearing feedback. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. And also before I go, Podbean I've deleted Podbean. I am no longer on Podbean. SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, and Facebook under Layman Podcast. Layman Racing Podcast is YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. So be sure to check that out. Thank you, guys. Take care.
you, 'cause